So the next thing we're going to do is create a web API call to write this using the Portal web API to Dataverse. Anytime we're using the web API, we need to tell Liquid to make use of the Portal web API. I'm going to say include my web template that I've prepared called Portal web API wrapper. And this is how we authenticate that this call is coming from a portal, it's legit. Then the way that I build my web API calls, I like to use Dataverse REST Builder. You can use this either as a browser extension in Chromium browsers, as I'm doing here, or it's part of XRM Toolbox as well. So I need to get the URL of my Dynamics environment first of all. And get an access token to authenticate who I am for Dataverse REST Builder. Okay, starting a new collection, and I want a request that creates a note attachment. The request type is create. The table that I'm interested in is notes. And then what do I want to write? So I'm going to be interested in the file name. I'm also going to want the MIME type. The document column, that's where the actual contents of the file go. I want to set the subject of this note, and I'll want to say what is this regarding. So this isn't just a standalone note, but it's related to the case that we're uploading it to. For now, I'm going to say just select any old case, just to give me a placeholder. Dataverse REST Builder is going to build all our API code for us. All that we'll need to do is feed in our file properties and our file contents from the drag and drop. So just pop some text placeholders in for now. I'll do that for the subject as well, and I'm going to say for the document, put the base64 file contents there. I can output that code in various different formats. What I'm interested in is the code for the Portal web API. And I can simply lift and shift that into my JavaScript. But I'm going to need a way to tell the portal when to do that. What I'm going to say is, when we've done all this stuff, when we've set all our variables, instead of just outputting them to the console, we want to run a function. Let's call that upload to note attachment. I'm going to pass it that base64, the file name, and the file type. So we need to now actually create that function. So I'm going to say we want a function called upload to note attachment. And again, what are we accepting here? We're going to be expecting some base64, a file name, and a file type. We want those parameters in that order, and then we can paste in the content from Dataverse REST Builder. That would be pretty much good to go, apart from we need to make that dynamic. So rather than specifically hard code the file name to be put file name here, or we want our actual inputs. So I'm going to say set the file name to the file name variable. The document body is going to be the base64. The subject will set equal to our file name. And then the record that we're relating this to, we want this note to be created regarding a case. And I know we're going to have the GUID of a case in the URL, so I'm going to use Liquid's request.params object. And the name of the URL parameter is ID. So I can include Liquid directly in here. It's already a string and it's going to provide a string, text in other words. That's all good, apart from there's no visual feedback for the user. But let's run that where we're up to, see if we encounter any errors. So I'm going to save that and let's go sync and preview. Again, dragging some files into the control. Go and take a look in the console. It's probably useful for you to see these things. I've got a few errors from the web API, forbidden, which looks like I'm missing some permissions. I can get a more detailed version of that response over on the network tab, so I'm going to try that again. Control R to refresh, drop my files in and see what the network tab tells me. So I don't have permissions to create records for the annotation table. So I'll quickly go and set that up. So over in Power Pages, I need to go to Setup, Table Permissions. Let's see what I've got for notes. That's all good, apart from I've not passed the case in the URL, so it doesn't know that this is a case that belongs to me. So quickly get signed in. And I'll go and get a case that belongs to my contact. Okay, so that request.params ID expects that to be / ID equals and then the GUID of a case. So if I try that again, let's see if the permissions now like that. Yep, so I've now got the GUID for 2 new records that have been created. So our functionality works. We've got some new notes that have appeared on the case. If I just refresh that. So that's the result of what we've just done. I've got the 2 files that I've just dragged in. But as you may have noticed, there's no visual feedback for the user. There's nothing to tell them this has actually worked or indeed anything was happening whatsoever. So let's next work on providing some visual feedback.